Welcome to the How to Be Awesome at Your Job podcast, the show where brilliant professionals share how to sharpen the universal skills required to flourish at work. Enjoy more career fun, wins, meaning, and money with your host, Pete Makaitis.
Hello and welcome to episode 897 with Jon Acuff. Jon is a luminary in the field of setting and achieving goals, personal development. He's written a lot of great stuff and I've enjoyed reading a lot of it. And now he is sharing the 3 steps to achieving any goal. And what I love about this conversation so much is that it's not fluffy, it's practical, it's battle-tested, it's wise. He's put this wisdom through its paces, so it is so good. You'll learn 1, how to make your loftiest goals more reachable. 2, the right amount of goals to pursue. And 3, how to stay motivated when things get tough. So if you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to items that we referenced, please drop on by awesomeatyourjob.com/EP897. And if you're hanging out at awesomeatyourjob.com, I recommend you check out some of our goodies, such as the Gold Nugget email list, which summarizes the actionable wisdom of each guest in a quick email that drops, releases, publishes, comes to your inbox, if you will, the day of the interview. And when you sign up for the Gold Nuggets, you also unlock the whole vault, the archive of all of these Gold Nugget summaries. And those are found at awesomeatyourjob.com. Handy stuff. Now here's a bit about Jon. Jon Acuff is a New York Times bestselling author of 9 books, including soundtracks, your new playlist, and the Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller, Finish. Give yourself the gift of done. When he's not writing and recording his popular podcast, All It Takes Is a Goal, Acuff can be found on stage as one of Inc.'s top 100 leadership speakers. He's spoken to hundreds of thousands of people at conferences, colleges, and companies around the world, including FedEx, Range Rover, Microsoft, Nokia, and Comedy Central. He lives outside of Nashville, Tennessee, with his wife and 2 daughters. Big thanks to Jon for sharing his wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsor to check out is Harvard Business Review. This brilliant magazine, published at hbr.org, is the leading destination for smart management thinking. Fun fact, HBR has been mentioned in 108 episodes of the show. That's because HBR has great stuff that comes up often. They've got explainer videos, podcasts, real-world case studies, and much more. I think of HBR each night that I put on my special orange glasses. Their article, Will Blue Light Glasses Improve Your Sleep?, revealed that those who wore them reported better sleep and a 7% improvement in work performance as compared to those who wore the sham glasses. So I cite HBR anytime anyone tells me that I look silly wearing them. Now, much of HBR's content is available for free when you sign up at their site. Subscriptions that get you unlimited content cost $10 a month. If you visit hbr.org/subscriptions and enter the promo code AWESOME, you can save 10% off of that subscription. Again, to save 10% off of your HBR subscription, go to www.hbr.org/subscriptions and enter the promo code AWESOME. One sponsor to check out is Storyworth. Whenever I'm thinking about meaningful Father's Day gifts, Storyworth leaps to mind. Storyworth helps you preserve precious memories and stories from your father for years to come. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved ones a thought-provoking question that you get to help pick, such as, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? I personally love the prompt so much that I have refreshed Storyworth's questions page many times looking for more. Storyworth makes the writing process super quick and easy. All your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story, and then you get a quick copy of that. And after a year of this fun, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. Families love Storyworth so much, they've got 25,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot and have millions of stories preserved. So give all the fathers in your life a unique, heartfelt gift they'll all cherish for years. Storyworth. Right now, you can save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/awesome. That's storyworth.com/awesome to save $10 on your first purchase. And big thanks to our sponsor, Acorns. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing for your future. You don't need a lot of money or expertise to invest with Acorns. In fact, you can get started with just your spare change. Acorns recommends an expert-built portfolio that fits you and your money goals, then automatically invests your money for you. NerdWallet.com, whom I love on these sorts of matters, gives Acorns a whopping 4.7 stars and says, quote, if you want to make the most of your spare change, there's no better place to do that than Acorns. Head to acorns.com/awesome or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. And we got a legal disclaimer here. It may not be representative of all clients. Tier 1 compensation provided. Compensation provides an incentive to positively promote Acorns. View important disclosures at acorns.com/awesome. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Please consider your objectives, risk tolerance, and Acorns' fees before investing. Acorns Advisors LLC, Acorns, is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are provided to clients of Acorns by Acorns Securities LLC, member at FINRA/SIPC. For more information, visit acorns.com. Now, here's Jon. Jon, welcome to How to Be Awesome at Your Job.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. I'm excited to get your latest hot takes on goal setting, goal achieving from your latest All It Takes is a Goal, the 3-step plan to ditch regret and tap into your massive potential. But first, I think we need to hear a little bit about you and tap dancing. What's the scoop here?
Oh yeah, I was super popular in high school, obviously. I took tap dancing. You knew you were cool and popular if you were also into tap dancing in high school. So I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and we would have a musical review where we would partner with other schools that only had girls. So it was the only time to ever dance with a girl. So I was like, I'll do that. If it requires tap dancing, let's go. So yeah, and I genuinely enjoyed tap dancing. I don't tap anymore. I've kind of retired. But yeah, I love tap dancing. I was a big tap dancer.
So you only did the tap dancing in high school, or did it carry on over?
Only in high school. I don't even know where you would in college. Imagine you're some roommate and I bring tap shoes to college.
Oh, yeah.
Like in my dorm room. And I'm just, what am I, in the hallway, just like working on routines? Yeah, no, it began and ended in high school, 100%.
Well, I think it looks and sounds really cool whenever I'm beholding it.
Yeah. But you don't want to see a lot of it. 4 hours of it's too much.
That it is. Well, I'm excited. You've got so much wisdom when it comes to goals, and you've got a fresh book here. All It Takes is a Goal. Can you tell us anything novel, surprising, counterintuitive that you've discovered while putting this one together?
I always try to write books that start with a challenge I'm having in my own life and something I'm trying to figure out. And then I see, do other people have the same challenge? Like, is it worth turning into a book? And we asked 3,000 people. There's this PhD guy, Mike Peasley, is a professor at MTSU here in town, if they feel like they're living up to their potential, and 96% of people said no. So I was surprised at the size of that, like that there's a general sense that people feel like they could do more with their lives, but don't know how to. So that surprised me, the size of that.
Now that's intriguing. Now, do you think it's that they don't know how to, or they think that just seems like a lot of work and I don't feel like it? What's your vibe there?
I think it's a variety of things. I think it feels complicated. I think we have broken soundtracks. Like, I wrote this book called Soundtracks about mindset, a soundtrack being like a repetitive thought. And one of my broken soundtracks is mo money, mo problems. If you build a successful life, more problems, more money, like success comes with so many complications. It's going to be so difficult. And then you end up playing smaller because you're afraid of these fictional complications. So I think some people go, I could if I wanted to, but it sounds like it'd be stressful. I think a lot of people just don't know if it's even possible. They lived in a town where nobody wrote a book. So then they don't even have a concept in their head that you could be an author if you wanted to be. Like, you could just do that. And so I think people pull back from their goals and their opportunities for a variety of reasons.
All right. And so then what's the big idea or main thesis behind your book there, All It Takes is a Goal?
Well, the main thesis is essentially, if you have this big desire and you want to accomplish it, all you have to do is turn it into a goal. And you can turn anything into a goal, and there's practical steps to do it. So one of the surprises, this wasn't a surprise of writing the book, but because you asked that question about like what surprised me, I've been surprised how many podcast interviews have pushed back against the idea of guaranteed goals. So in the book, I talk about there's 3 different types of goals. There's easy goals, there's middle goals, there's guaranteed goals. And so I've had a bunch of people say, well, what you mean? How can you guarantee a goal? That there's no such thing as a guaranteed goal. But for me, I always respond, I couldn't have written about that idea in book 1 because I hadn't done it. I didn't know this idea was possible. But this is book 9. They haven't happened because of magic. They've happened because I took this desire to write books and I turned it into a goal. And like when this book came out, I turned in the 10th book in the same week. And so there's going to be an 11th book. There's going to be a 12th book. Not because it's magic or I'm extra creative, but I turned something I really wanted to do, which was write books, into a goal, and I was able to execute it. So I think that's one of the core ideas in the book is you can accomplish almost anything with the right steps and really enjoy it along the way.
And so just to be fully clear, what is it that you mean by a guaranteed goal?
So here's the metaphor that I've been using. Most people, when they think about a goal, imagine a ladder and it's only got 2 rungs. So they go, I want to start a podcast. I want to run a marathon. I want to write a book. And you have a 12-foot tall ladder. There's 1 rung at the bottom that says day 1. And there's 1 rung at the top that says publish the book or grow a 1 million listener podcast. And if I said to you, okay, Pete, you have to get to the top of that ladder, you'd go, goals are really hard. I guess I just have to jump and try to grab it. And what my approach is what if you had rungs that were 6 inches apart all the way up the ladder? Like, would that be an easier ladder to climb? Do you think you can accomplish that? And people go, yeah. And then I say, okay, well, great. Well, let's take this massive thing and then find out how to make the steps easy. Let's do some easy goals. So an easy goal has a 1 to 7 day time frame. You do an experiment. You're not going all in. People tend to go like, I got to go all in. I got to do it all. Like, you'll see people buy expensive YouTube cameras without figuring out what they want their channel to be. So they'll go, I'm going to buy, I'm going to go all in, but they don't do the easy things first. So they lose momentum. So my plan is, what's an easy goal? How do we succeed? How do we get some proof that it's worth turning into a middle goal? A little more time, a little more investment, a little more effort. And then eventually you get to where it's a guaranteed goal where it's going to happen. So an example of that would be, I have a friend who wants to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's got about 800,000 right now. There's no planet where he doesn't end up getting with 1 million subscribers. Like, he's in motion. I'm going to sell 1 million books in my career. I have sold 860,000-ish books. That's going to happen because I'm in the middle of the ladder. I didn't say at the very bottom, I'm going to sell 1 million books. That would have been egotistical and silly. But I'm on the middle of this journey. I've done a lot of easy goals. I wrote a lot of small blogs. I've done a lot of small writing. And then I turned them into middle goals. I wrote some short books, and then I wrote some longer books, and then I sold some other books. So now I'm in the middle of the ladder. I know that's going to happen. That's what I mean by a guaranteed goal. It's got factors like the results are in your control. A bad guaranteed goal would be me saying, Pete, I'm going to hit the New York Times bestsellers list. That's a terrible goal. Anytime an author tells me that's their goal, I go, I get it. I'm so glad I hit it, but you don't control that. You have zero control over that.
Yeah, the competitors and when do people buy?
No, it's a formula you don't have access to. You could sell more than 10 people on the list, but if you don't hit the formula, it doesn't matter. Not even just the competitors. You could sell more than every competitor, but if you haven't hit the formula that they keep private, it doesn't matter. So you don't control that. So a guaranteed goal is you control it. It's measurable, so you can measure what you're doing. You've got proof. You've got proof of middle goals and easy goals that have succeeded. So that's what I mean by guaranteed goal, where your effort ensures the results.
Gotcha. Yeah, there you go. That's clear. The effort ensures the results. Got it. All right. Well, could you maybe share an inspiring story of some folks who weren't making much progress? They felt like they weren't hitting their potential. Their goals were stalled, and they saw things transformed.
Yeah. So one of my favorite stories in the book, there's a woman named Susan Robertson. She got her bachelor's degree in the car rider pickup line. And what I mean by that is she's a super busy mom. Like, a lot of moms are super busy. And she found 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute segments of time where she could figure out over a period of time how to spend that time towards a bachelor degree. She finished a bachelor degree in the car rider pickup line. And I love her story because it pushes back against the excuse we all have of, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. So she's probably one of my favorite stories.
That's cool. All right. Well, so then tell us, we have goals, or we don't yet have goals, or we feel the sense that we're falling short of potential. What are the fundamental drivers or reasons behind this?
Yeah. One reason would be you're chasing fake goals. So you're chasing things you think you want to do, but you don't really want to do them. So you've told people for years you want to write a book, but it's been 10 years and you haven't written a book. Maybe you don't want to write a book. That's okay. Like, that's perfectly fine. Maybe you inherited a goal. I meet people all the time, especially college students, that'll say, I'm a senior. I'm about to go to law school. My mom told me I'd be a good lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. Like, what do? They inherited that goal from their mom, and they're not going to really enjoy that goal. Another is imposter syndrome. That's a really common thing. You start to work on something and imposter syndrome goes, you're not a real entrepreneur. You're not a real writer. You're not a real runner. Like, you can't go lose weight. You're not an athlete. You have to be an athlete. Another one would be perfectionism. You're trying to do it perfectly, which is impossible. And so anytime you make a misstep, you feel like, okay, this isn't the right goal for me, or I'm not the right person. Overthinking is another one. You end up overthinking what you really want to do. I would say there's any number of villains that get in the way, and a lot of them do boil down to you've got fear about the process. You've got fear that it's going to hurt. You've got fear about the results. You self-sabotage. There's so many things that get in people's way.
Okay. And so having identified these, what are some of the solutions?
So my favorite solution, let's just take imposter syndrome. The only instant cure to imposter syndrome is to do the work. It's the only thing that cures imposter syndrome. And an example of that would be when I first started writing, imposter syndrome said, oh, you're not a real writer. Like, you're not a writer. Like, who are you to share ideas? You're not a writer. And it said that. And then I wrote. It got a little quieter. And then the second day I wrote and it was still there. And the third day and the fourth day. But eventually I looked up and I had published a book. So when imposter syndrome came in and was like, hey, you're not a writer, I was like, this is awkward because I'm holding a book in my hand. It's got my picture on it. Like, it's got my name right on the cover. Like, I think I might be a writer. At this point on book 9, it can't whisper that to me. Like, because I say, oh, there's a stack of them. They're in 20 languages. Like, I think I might actually be a writer. The work generates results, and results are imposter syndrome's kryptonite. I didn't get over imposter syndrome and then write. I wrote until I got over that form of imposter syndrome. So that's a really easy example. And the fun thing is the work is available always. And the second you do even a little of it, imposter syndrome gets a little quieter. You go to your first gym class, imposter syndrome gets a little quieter. You launch your first podcast episode, gets a little quieter. So that one to me feels really, really solvable in a really, really simple way.
Okay. And what if the hang up is just like, I'm just kind of comfortable. That seems like a lot of work. I don't know about all that.
I agree, dude. I agree. Here's what I'd say, Pete. The only thing easier than doing a goal is not doing a goal. Like, it's really the only thing easier. The only thing easier than writing a book is not writing a book. Or only thing easier than going to the gym is not going to the gym. So I think the trick here is nobody just decides to have willpower. Nobody wakes up and goes, today, I'm having grit. I'm going to be disciplined today. Nobody just wakes up and changes their life that way. What usually happens is one of two things. You get out of a comfort zone, either from a involuntary crisis, something happens outside of your control, like a parent gets sick, you lose your job, and I got to find another job, or a voluntary trick. Like, you figure out, I want this thing more than staying the same, and I'm going to trick myself into changing. Like, I'm going to find a way to actually change. So for me, I was 34 years old, had 2 kids under the age of 4, full-time job at Auto Trader, Atlanta commute, hour and a half each way, had freelance clients, a bunch of responsibilities. But I started the blog and I really liked it. And I was like, wait a second, this seems kind of neat. Like, I wish I could do more of this. Like, I got this small little desire. And then I started to look at each hour of my day like a log, and I wanted to throw more of them into this burning fire, this blaze. And so I didn't stop watching TV as much because I was disciplined. I just wanted that time to go to this thing I absolutely loved. And I couldn't find enough time to throw at it. So I started getting up early in the morning. I started practicing speeches in the drive to work. Like, I started throwing as much time as I could into it. So a lot of times if somebody goes, it seems like a lot of work, I agree. It just means you don't have a thing you really desire yet. Like, if you had something you really desired, it would woo you into changing. It would make you want to change, not I have to figure out how I make myself change.
Mm-hmm. For those whose passion, desire, is it a low ebb? Any pro tips for surfacing? Where's that thing?
Well, I think part of it is, it depends on if you're practicing being low. And what I mean by that is nothing happens awesome accidentally. Nobody accidentally gets in shape. I've never met a single person that goes, I was just binge watching Netflix. I looked up and I was doing burpees. I don't even remember getting off the couch. Mm-hmm. Like, everything that's awesome takes work. An awesome marriage takes work. The default of marriage is to be pulled apart in separate directions and get a divorce. That's the default. You have to work to have a good marriage. There's no such thing as an accidentally awesome marriage. It takes work. Same with positivity, same with negativity. So an example of that, if somebody said to me, John, I feel really low, I feel really down, I would go, well, tell me about what you're practicing. Like, what are you practicing? Are you practicing positivity? Are you practicing negativity? Where are you making choices that feed one or the other? So for me, I'm a very naturally negative person. Like, I'm super pessimistic. I'm very low naturally. I always joke, like, I have a Counting Crows, like, temperament, like, just very mopey. I'm very jaded, cynical, but I've tested positivity and I've tested negativity, and the ROI of positivity is so much better. Like it is so much more productive. Like I get books written. I get to accomplish goals. Negativity never dreams. It can't dream. It only sees the negative side of things. So when somebody says to me they're low, it's often like they're saying, John, I feel really hungry. And I go, well, did you eat anything today? And they go, no, I didn't eat. I haven't eaten anything in 3 days. And I go, well, I'm going to blow your mind. I know why you're hungry. You're hungry because you haven't eaten anything. So if you say to me, John, I feel low, I feel negative, and I go, tell me about how you spent your day. Well, I hate my job. I was on social media arguing with strangers about politics. I listened to murder podcast episodes to work and back from work. And then at night, I watched documentaries about murders. And then you were like, I don't know why I feel negative. I'd be like, I know in my shirt, the clothes I wear say namaste in bed, or I can't adult today. You wore a reminder limiting yourself for an entire day. And you're like, I don't know why I feel low. I know why. You practice that for an entire day, maybe even an entire year. What if we started practicing some other things? What if we just start, not massive things all at once, like, but if you have something you like, if this isn't working for you, let's practice something else. If it is working for you, keep getting those results. That's fine. Like sometimes people say to me, this stuff is common sense. It's common sense, which I always push back and go, if you're doing those things, it's common sense. If you're in the best shape of your life right now, it's common sense. If you have more money in your 401k and your retirement, if you love your job, all of these things are common sense. If you don't have that type of life right now, this is extraordinary because you're not doing any of it. So like engage in it if you want to, or just stick with the results you have. That's your choice. You get to choose that.
Okay. So let's say we do have the desire. We got something going and we're like, all right, John, I got a goal. Tell me, what is this 3-step plan? How do I get after it and maximize the odds that I will achieve it?
Well, I mean, the first thing we do is we would break it down into small actions so that we could actually practice it. So we would probably maybe do like a 10-hour test. I'd say, okay, here's your massive goal. You want to find a different job. We would go, what are some easy ways to start with that? Like not find a different job tomorrow, not become a different person next week. It's funny with goals. We understand some goals take time and other goals we want fast results. So nobody ever says, I'm going to learn Italian this week. Like, or I'm going to learn Italian this month. They know that takes time, but find a new job. They go, I got to find a new job this week, like an amazing new job, or I got to find it this month. So the first thing I do is say, okay, what are some actions we can actually do? How do we make it some easy goals that you can accomplish? That's step one. We're going to escape the comfort zone. Step two would be, okay, how do we avoid the chaos zone? Because what happens is people, when they start a goal, they get a little bit of momentum and they want to do it all at once. So they go from not trying anything to I'm going to do everything. They get inspired and they land right in the chaos zone, which is too much action, too many goals. It's why we have the phrase yo-yo diet in our country, because people yo-yo back and forth. What happens with people is they don't do any goals. They get a little inspired and they try to do everything. Like I meet people all the time with podcasting. They're like, I'm going to do a daily podcast. I'm going to go all in like John Lee Dumas. Like I'm going to do a daily podcast. And I go, have you ever done like a weekly? Have you ever done like a bi-weekly? And they go, no, I'm going for it. I'm inspired. And I know you're going to do 7 episodes and realize podcasting is challenging, but you're in the chaos zone. And so how do I help you get out of that chaos zone? And then the third thing is, how do we live in the potential zone, which is the right amount of goals, the right amount of actions. That's the 3 steps is you escape the comfort zone, you avoid the chaos zone, and you live in the potential zone.
And how do we know the right amount of goals, the right amount of actions?
So people want me to say a number. People go, how many goals should I chase? And they want me to say 7.8. Pete, you need to do 9.3. That's not the answer. The answer is as many as you can do successfully. So it's an individual answer. So there's some times where I'll meet people that'll go, I got a full-time job. I got 2 kids under the age of 5. I've got all these commitments. And I'll go, cool. How many hours do you have to invest in your goals? The problem, Pete, is people go, I got these 10 goals I want to do. I'll say, okay, how many hours do you think it would take a week to like do those well? And they'll go, oh, I don't know. And they'll come up with a list and it'll take 20 hours. And I'll go, hey, cool. Right now in your average week, how many hours of free time do you have right now? Like, are you dealing with, you have too much time? You don't have enough things? And they'll go, no, I don't have any time. And I'll go, okay, so you have 20 hours of goals you want to do. You have a 2-hour slot every week. Which one is going into it? Often the goal is divorced from the calendar and it never happens. So you have to say, here's how much time I have. And if you're not happy with that, here's where I'm going to go find more time. But that's one of the most honest metrics. I think time is probably the most honest metric because it tells you the truth and it'll tell you pretty quickly what you actually have time for.
Okay. And speaking of time, before you mentioned the 10-hour, what was your term? The 10-hour?
I said a 10-hour experiment.
Is that just we go after some actions for over the course of 10 hours and then we reflect? Or what do you mean by the 10-hour experiment?
So I'm constantly trying to help people limit the number of goals they're working on so they can be successful and then build more into their life. So again, what happens is people go, like I did a survey and the people that read my books, nobody who reads my books comes to me with 0 goals. That never happens. People who don't have goals don't read a book called All It Takes Is a Goal. They don't even know that section of the bookstore exists. They don't listen to podcasts like yours. Like no one who's not engaged and getting better and learning and growing is listening to podcasts like this. They don't even know these kind of they don't come to this category of podcasts. What happens is they tend to have lots and lots of things they're excited about. So part of my job is to go, okay, you got 22 things you're interested in. Let's figure out how to narrow that down a little bit so we can actually get some wins and accomplish some of these. So there's 2 ways you can do this. There's probably 50 ways you can do this, but the 2 that I like are one, I'd go, I want you to write down a list of all the things you'll get if you accomplish that goal. So write a book. Okay, tell me the things you'll get. Start a business. Tell me the things you'll get. Because I'm trying to get a sense of their real desire. Because again, nobody changes just because. They change because the desire makes the thing worth it. I don't like delayed flights. I don't like missing flights. I don't like airports or hotel travel, but I love being on stage. I love being a public speaker. I do my entire year to be on stage 50 times a year. That's the trade I make because I love it that much. I don't even care about a delayed flight. I'll sleep wherever in the Baltimore airport because I love doing that. If I hated my job, the littlest inconvenience would set me off. I'd go, I can't, it's not worth the commute. So I initially try to get a sense of somebody's desire. So if I say to you, Pete, write down 10 things you'll get if you do this goal and you go, I can't do it. Great. We can cross it off the list. Like if you can't even do that part, you're going to hate the rest of it. Like this is the easy part. So I'll do a desire check and go, okay, what do you really care about? And then I'll do a 10-hour check. If you want to invest 10 hours into it, you're not going to invest the 1,000 it takes. Like if it takes me 500 to 1,000 hours to write a book, that's a pretty big investment. But I can test at the beginning, am I willing to even try 10 hours? And if the 10 hours takes you 3 months to find, you really don't want to do the goal. Awesome. Let's clear that one out. I want you to have a short list that you can actually do and actually win at and get some momentum and then add a bunch to your life.
So the 10-hour experiment, the thing we're testing to see if it's present is desire. And so we'll know, hey, we did 10 hours or you didn't do 10 hours. That's telling in and of itself. Or you did 10 hours. Like, you know what? Actually, I hated that.
Yeah. Or you might know 2 hours in, you might know automatically like, no, this isn't the thing. Like one of the things I say is I want you to find a desire you love so much that it makes Netflix boring. That's the thing. You asked me, why don't people accomplish goals? Part of it is we haven't given companies enough credit. There are 50,000 people at Facebook right now, and their goal is Pete's time. That is their goal, is how do I get more of their time? The distraction industry has scaled much faster and bigger than our ability to focus. So we don't give companies enough credit that you go, man, why is it hard to do goals? Because Netflix and Instagram are very easy. It's not accidental that you go to look at one photo and an hour later, you're like, what just happened? Like, why am I on YouTube watching a video that had nothing to do? Like, that's not accidental. So some of the reason it's hard to accomplish goals is that there's an entire industry working against you. Netflix doesn't want you to have a good podcast, Pete. No, they want you to watch more Netflix, and they should. That's their company mission. Like Instagram doesn't want you to get in shape. That's not their goal. Their goal is you spend 10 hours. Like the average American right now watches 34 hours of TV a week, according to Nielsen. So the Nielsen rating is 34 hours of TV a week. So when somebody says, man, I just don't have time for my goals, I can usually help them find some time, but that's part of why it's challenging. That's part of why it's difficult.
All right. And so then we're pursuing the dream. We said, all right, it's past the 10-hour experiment. Okay, cool. We're after it. Give us some perspective on how we go about translating things into micro actions. Like just how micro are we talking? And can you give us some examples of breaking things down that way?
Yeah. So one of my goals was I wanted to be a better friend. I realized during COVID, I was kind of isolated. I work at home. I want to be a better friend. I want better connection. I always joke that I know I'm isolated when I overtalk the UPS guy. Like, he's like, I just want to drop off a box. And I'm like, how's your family? How's Pam and the kids? Like, so I want to be a better friend. That's a fuzzy goal. I can't really operate on that one. It's not measurable. I can't really do anything with it. So then I was like, okay, what if I could make that into a daily goal, like a small daily goal? And so I thought about it. I worked on it a little bit and I said, okay, I'm going to text one person an encouragement every day for 30 days in a row. 30 different people, 30 different encouragements. So, okay, now I have a measurable goal. So then what's a small action related to that one? Well, what if I made a list of my friends I'm going to text? Because I know if I get on day 4 and I have to go, okay, who am I? I'm going to quit. I'm going to get distracted by something else. So I said, okay, one of the small actions is I make a list of 30 people I want to connect with. And that wasn't hard. I went through my contacts and said, okay, here's 30 people I haven't connected with lately. So then I did that. So then I made a little chart. I've got a little checkbox. And then for 30 days, I would write a short text to people. And I made it easy on myself. I didn't say I'd write 30 handwritten notes. That's not an easy goal. I got to find stamps and mail and addresses. So I did that for 30 days in a row. And there wasn't a single person that responded back and said, I wish you hadn't said that today. Like, today's the worst day for you to tell me that encouragement. 90% said, you don't know how much I needed that today. That was really encouraging. So at the end of the 30 days, it had become a guaranteed goal. Because Pete, if I encourage 30 people for 30 days in a row, I'm guaranteed to be a better friend. 30 interactions with 30 different people, I am a better friend at the end of the 30 days. That's not a mystery to me. So then I go, I want to be a better dad. Like, I got 2 teenage daughters. I want to be a better dad. It's not easy to raise teenagers. So I'm like, what if I took that principle and I made it apply to just my kids? So for 30 days in a row, I encouraged my kids and I made a list of things that I think are really special about them. So then I make a list and I go, McCrae was really brave about this. Ellie was really funny about this. And then I'm like, what about actions? What if I help them in some small way? So then I come up with a list of that. And I'm like, I could clean McCrae's, she's got a small fish. She's got a betta fish. I'll clean the fish bowl once a week. Like, it takes me 10 minutes. But it's one of those things that a teenage daughter doesn't want to do. She's busy. She's like, oh, this stupid fish. I'm like, oh, I could do a list of actions. At the end of the 30 days, we have a better relationship. Again, it's not complicated. It's just, I went out of my way and spent some time as a dad to think about things that are special about them, to remind them of those things, to do kind things for them. I'm a better dad at the end of that experience than when I was before the experience. So that's an example of taking something super fuzzy, be a better dad. What does that even mean? And making it practical and actionable. And it changed our interactions.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, tell me, Jon, anything else you want to make sure to mention before we shift gears and hear about some of your favorite things?
I have a podcast where I talk about a lot of this called All It Takes Is a Goal. So if you're a podcast person, and you are because you're listening to one, check out All It Takes Is a Goal.
Okay. And maybe before I do that, I'd also want to get your take on, with regard to keeping the motivation going.
Yeah.
Celebration, rewards, not celebrating, not doing rewards, pushing through the moments when you're just not feeling it. How do you think about the motivational arc over the long term and what can be done there?
Well, motivation is the flightiest thing in the world. Motivation tends to disappear on day 2 of a goal, because that's when the work shows up. So I always tell people, like, you have to bring your own motivation. What I teach is you need a motivation portfolio. People tend to think they're going to find their one why or their vision quest, like their reason, their true north, and that'll be enough. What I found is you need lots and lots and lots of sources of motivation. So a portfolio of motivation. So when I work with people, I say, okay, what are 10 things that you're going to enjoy about this? What are 10 forms of motivation? What are 20 forms of motivation? Because some days 1 through 5 won't even move the needle. Like, there's some days where all it takes, like, I'm so close to the motivation that a song gets me like, all right, let's go. I listen to this song. It's motivation. There's some days I can listen to 10 songs and be like, this is dumb anyway. And I need a different form of motivation. So I practice motivation. I don't see motivation as a checkbox. I expect it to dissipate. I expect it to disappear at times, and I work against that. And I'm deliberate about that and say, okay, I have to practice it. I have to have lots of forms of motivation. And the other thing is that I remind myself that excellence is boring. Like, real excellence is boring at plenty of times. So writing thank you notes to people like that nobody sees, you're doing all the little things, following up with people, the emails, the details, like people get to see the 30 minutes on stage, but there's 50 other things I've done to make that moment happen. And those things are often, I just have to do them. They're small and sometimes annoying. But so for me, I remind myself of that and I plan a ton of motivation. I don't expect motivation to stay long. I know it's going to leave. And so I always say like BYOH, like you've got to bring your own hype. And so I work at motivation pretty aggressively.
Well, yes, let's dig into that. The working on motivation, having a portfolio, one thing might be the songs. So you actually have documented, listed somewhere. These are my pump up jams.
Yeah, totally. All so, right. But like, I'll have a list where it's okay. I made a list the other day. I'll just turn to it. I'll just tell you what's on this list. So I went through, and you can tell I'm a big list guy. I'm a fan of the list. I just love to kind of get ideas out of my head and onto a piece of paper. So the other day I was like, okay, if I work on building an excellent business, what will I get? What will keep me motivated? What are my forms of motivation? So one of them is I can pay for my daughter to go to London. My oldest daughter got accepted to study abroad for a semester in London. Man, that's awesome. And if I do my business well, I get to pay for stuff like that. Like that's super cool. I control my calendar. If I run my business well, I have a lot more control over my calendar. I love that. I get to spend time with team members like Gian and Caleb. I can afford to have team members. I love that. I get to, plan vacation days. I get to spend time with clients I love if I'm deliberate. So in addition to things that are traditional, like, okay, this music encourages me, a walk around the block encourages me, this person encourages me, like a friend that I text with encourages me, I'll be really deliberate and go, man, if I work hard, I get to afford a personal assistant. Like that changed my life 7 years ago, like hiring a personal assistant, game changing for me. But I had to figure out how to pay for that person and how to help lead that person. And so little things like that, I go out of my way to go, what happens if I do this well? How do I stay motivated to this? Because again, some of those items aren't going to move me some days. Like there's sometimes where the goal is really challenging and I have to go, no, I've already committed. And I committed to somebody that I want to honor the commitment to them. Like, because if you have an accountability coach that you don't care about, you'll break that all day. So like you have to have some degree of, I want to be held accountable to this person. This person matters to me. So yeah, I have a pretty robust list of motivation because I've just seen it time and time again. If you think it'll be there, it never grows during a goal. It only shrinks. I have to be the one that grows it.
Okay. Well, now could you share a favorite quote? Something you find inspiring.
So one of mine is from Brad Montague. Brad Montague was the creator of this Kid President campaign. Really fun, blew up online. I asked him, like, how do you do that creative endeavor with Beyonce, Obama? It was huge. And then do your next one. Because there's sometimes as a creative, a letdown from the next one. And he said, well, I have to know whether I'm creating from love or for love. He said, when I have an idea, am I sharing it from this amazing amount of love I have for this idea? Or am I trying to get people to love me via this idea? Am I looking for adoration and am I looking for attention? Because that's not going to be a very good idea. I'm not going to feel very good. Or am I creating something because it's so big inside me? If I don't create it, I'm going to burst. And so that's one of the ways I look at my projects is like, is this from love or for love? And so that's always been a quote that's been helpful.
Okay. And a favorite study or experiment or bit of research?
NYU, and Daniel Kahneman talked about this in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, where they took two groups of college students in, gave them a word bank and said, create some sentences. The second group, they had hidden words, trigger words related to being old, like retired and slow and bald in Florida. And so then they say after 20 or 30 minutes, the second part of the test is down the hall. That's where the real test started. They secretly timed the students walking, and the students who had read the words about being old physically acted old, just reading those words. So I put that study in my book Soundtracks because it's a great reminder how powerful your thoughts are, that your thoughts can change your physical actions.
Okay. And a favorite book?
War of Art, Stephen Pressfield. That's the one. I love that book.
Oh, man. I listened to the audio version. The title is perfect. It's like The War of Art.
Yeah.
Like you really, really, really will feel resistance to doing the thing.
Yeah.
And you have to declare war upon that.
It was one of those books that got me through my first book. Like it was, somebody gave it to me and it was, So it's one that I've come back to a few times. Then Seth Godin, The Dip. I really like The Dip. It was a short book that had a big message for me.
And a favorite tool, something you use to be awesome at your job?
Notebooks. I'm a big notebook guy. I mean, I read you a list from an actual notebook. There's a brand called Leuchtturm. They're better than Moleskine, in my opinion. And so I love notebooks.
All right. And a favorite habit, something you do that helps you be awesome at your job?
Exercise. I need endorphins. My wife will sometimes say, you need to go for a run. And that's her way of being like, you're kind of being a huge jerk. So yeah, exercise for me. If I don't exercise for a few days, I get super low. And so I would say exercise is a habit I use.
Okay. And is there a key nugget you share that really seems to connect and resonate with folks? They Kindle book, highlight it, they retweet it at your speeches and such?
Yeah. 2 would be never compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. So when you start your thing, don't go when you start a podcast, don't go look at Joe Rogan's podcast and be like, man, my podcast isn't big enough. And then another one would be leaders who can't be questioned end up doing questionable things. So if you surround yourself with yes people, you eventually implode. And
if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
JonAcuff.com, JONACUFF.com. And then All It Takes a Goal is the book. It's sold anywhere books are sold. And I read the audiobook. And there's 10 bonus chapters in it. So if you're into audio and if you're listening to a podcast, you probably are, check that out.
All right. And you have a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome at their jobs?
Yeah. Here's what I'd say. You can't half do your day job and then think you'll hustle on your dream job. You're one person. If you practice being lazy all week, you won't turn it on the weekend. So when I jumped from jobs back and forth, I think the stat was I had 8 jobs in 12 years. And when I finally realized, oh, wait, if I actually perform well at this day job, I'll also perform well at my dream job. Awesome. And when I kind of connected those 2 things, my job changed.
All right, Jon, thank you. This has been a treat. I wish you much luck and fun and goal dream achievement.
Thanks. I had a blast doing it, Pete.
I really love Jon's perspective on motivation so much is that I expect it to disappear. And thusly, I need to bring my own motivation. And first, we can experiment, do that 10-hour experiment up front to notice, oh, do I actually care about this enough? Well, maybe not. Maybe pursue something different. But then assuming that we do pass that experiment, then bring that motivation. You've listed all the cool things that will come about for you, what you get when you complete that thing, you accomplish that thing. That's handy. And then you've got the tactics in terms of whatever, jumping up and down, pounding your chest, making power moves or playing some pump up jams. I think that's very handy to expect going in, eyes wide open. Motivation will be fickle. It will leave me. And therefore, it is incumbent upon me to bring my own motivation. So let's go in there prepped and ready for that battle. Good stuff from Jon. Again, the show notes, the transcript, and the links to items that we reference are at awesomeatyourjob.com/EP896. Hope to catch you next time. And peace.
Thanks for listening. To get the most out of the show, we recommend 2 key things. First, check out the extra resources at awesomeatyourjob.com. You can find this episode's transcript and links, as well as the perfect episode for your situation. You can search the full text transcripts of hundreds of episodes or explore episodes tagged by topic and competency covered. Second, subscribe to the podcast and get future episodes automatically. You can subscribe by telling Siri and several other smartphones and speakers, subscribe to the How to Be Awesome at Your Job podcast, or by tapping subscribe in your podcast player of choice. If you'd like some extra help figuring out podcasts and how subscriptions work, visit awesomeatyourjob.com/subscribe for guidance. Hope to catch you on the next episode of How to Be Awesome at Your Job.